Orestria, a goth girl in Japan, and I watch too much anime. If you're undecided about what to watch from the summer 2024 anime season, I'm here to solve your anime indecision with an internet-friendly tier list. Malgun Saikyo no Majutsushi wa Ningen datta. The strongest magician in the Demon Lord's army was a human. Ike was raised by a demon mage, despite the fact that he's human, and demons and humans are eternally at war. He wears a mask to pretend he's a demon, and becomes a general in their army. He uses his tactical knowledge to help the demons win, but with as little loss of life as possible, because his ultimate goal is to bring the two sides together. And honestly, humans in this anime are dumb assholes, so I'm pretty firmly on the demon side here. This anime looks really ugly, and it has some pretty weak logic, which is a big problem when your selling point is meant to be strategy. Yeah, this one goes in the bad category. Isekai Suicide Squad. I mean, do I need to do a plot description? The name's kind of on the tin. Then again, what I imagined was not really what we got, so I guess I do need to explain. Amanda Waller has opened a portal to another world, because we can extract resources from it. Sure. I'm more of a Marvel girly. I'm not sure that totally tracks with what I understand about Miss Waller, but I could easily be mistaken. She sends in the Suicide Squad, a bunch of max security criminals, but with bombs implanted in them so they can follow her rules or die. Except she doesn't even tell them that that's what's happening until they wake up on a helicopter, already in the other world, and they got shot down immediately. This anime is an exercise in how much nothingness are you willing to sit through to get to a fun fight. There's banter that's not as cute as it thinks it is. I might be being kind by putting this in good for thee, not for me, but here we are. Boku no tsuma wa kanjo ga nai. My wife has no emotion. Our main character works at some black company where he works crazy hours so he gets an artificial woman to do housework. I have so many concerns. He describes her at first as a kitchen appliance made for cooking and washing dishes. Okay. Let's go with that for a moment. Then why does she have a cute woman's face and body? Why is that cute body too short to use the sink, such that she needs to stand on a stool to use it? Sinks are standard sizes. If you are making a robot to use them, then there's no fucking excuse for that. She can speak, which I hate smart appliances, but I get that there are people who like them. But can we agree that it's weird to give her a mouth and not have that mouth open when she speaks? She doesn't eat or taste things either, so what that mouth do? Next! If all she does is cook and wash dishes, what do you think she does for the rest of the day? Go into a charging closet? Nope, she sits in Seiza. Cool. And by cool, I mean creepy as fuck. Who would want this? I tried really hard to give this a chance. The animation was fine, I wasn't bored by the pacing, there was even a joke I liked. And then, the main character gazed at that blank, expressionless face of a sleeping woman and thought, this is making me horny. It's so incel. It's so rape culture. He's not attracted to her personality. She doesn't have one. He's not aroused by her being into him. Just her literal, passive existence is enough to get him going. I have already spent more time and energy on this than it deserves. Fucking Chobits did this better 20 years ago. Straight to the bad category with you. Be gone from my mind. Shinmai Osan boken saikyo party ni shinu hodo kitaerarete muteki ni naru. The Osan newbie adventurer trained to death by the most powerful party became invincible. Rick used to work as a clerk in the Adventurers Guild, but when he turned 30, he decided he wasn't going to give up on his dream of being an adventurer. He quits his job and spends 2 years training with, I guess, high-rank adventurers? They look demon-coded, right? He comes back to participate in the entrance exams, and everyone's like, but you're old! And here's the comic trick of the anime. Rick is massively overpowered from his training, but thinks he's weak. Anything that happens that ought to prove that he's strong, he impossibly misinterprets. Like thinking the punching bag was defective when he breaks it. I've seen this joke or a close variant of it a lot, and it does not appeal to me. Hey anime, got anything else to change my mind? Yes. That's unfair. There actually are a decent number of women here, and they don't seem insanely sexualized so far. I think this is one of the better executions of this collection of tropes that I've seen. They have some genuinely good reaction shots. If this is a kind of story that specifically appeals to you, maybe it's worth. I'm going to put it in mediocre. Kasuketsu, Fate of the Majority. A group of teens, because it's always high schoolers, see a weird message on their computer screen. Are you looking at this? And go on about their day. But that message has already changed their lives. Each day there will be a question, and the minority answer will live. So the few people who saw that message wake up to all of their families being dead. At which point they all go to school and calmly try to rationalize what's happening, then calmly make decisions so poorly that 80s horror movie characters would make fun of them. But right away, this show is bad. The designs and animation are mid at best. We get an exposition scene where it's like, as you know, I'm your best friend. Yes, and since you're my best friend, you know my mom is dead. Yes, is your dad still living overseas? So that's the storytelling level we're at. But I had hope, because I love trashy death game shows. And we're always lucky if a trashy death game show is like mid. So bad it's good is ideal. So I kept watching. And the episode ends with an absolutely sick twist that they immediately walked back. And like, this anime didn't even have any fun kills. Bad. Shy, Tokyo Dakkanhen. This is the second season of Shy, which is a fun series that appeals to me, personally. It's like a cross between a magical girl show and a superhero show. Each country has its own superhero, leading to an era of world peace. Until some super baddies come around, using the fear in people's heart to turn them into monsters, exactly like Sailor Moon villains. I love the characters. Everyone here is fun. The country-specific thing is always fun, as G Gundam has proven, and their interactions are the best part of the anime for me. The fights are fun enough, the emotional beats are unsurprising, but well done. Orestria likey. Dead, demons, dead, destruction. Oh yeah, Orestria. Start sections off with plot descriptions. You're trying to help people decide which anime to watch, so it makes sense to tell them a little bit about it. Jesus fucking Christ. This is a sci-fi anime about the mundanity of the end of the world, I guess? There's a fuck you huge alien mothership above Tokyo, but it's been there for years, so everyone's back to their normal lives. Sure, there are rumors on the net about invaders and the air being irradiated, but like, that's just conspiracy theory stuff, right? This is an everything show. Any genre I can think of, it's in here. Slice of life stuff? Yeah. Comedy? Yeah. Horror, disaster, action, mystery? Yes. But the biggest influence is sci-fi and Doraemon. No, I'm afraid I can't elaborate. Here's my dilemma. This shit doesn't fit in any of my categories. I wouldn't say I liked it. I experienced it. I certainly can't recommend it broadly, due to some subject matter. But usually good for thee, not for me, is for things where I recognize quality but didn't watch it myself. And I watched all of this. This gets dark. But if you just want dark, you might not like all the slice of life stuff. And if you're enjoying the fun light parts, you might not like the dark parts. Fuck it. Let's add a new category. It's good, but don't watch it. Unless you know what you're getting into. Tokidoki bosotto Roshiago de derareru tonari no Alia-san. Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian. Alia is Russian and has a type A personality. She's a member of the student council at school and has a crush on the boy sitting beside her in class. She's a tsundere, but as a twist, she says the dere stuff in Russian so he can't understand her, as far as she knows. Bro actually does speak Russian, and at this point he can't let her know because he's been hiding it too long. I swear this had an ecchi tag, but I wouldn't come here for that if I were you. It was quite minimal. This is just a remarkably enjoyable high school kids drama. There's romance, comedy, and even some political intrigue with student council stuff. You need a high tolerance for anime bullshit, though, I'll warn you. Orestria likey. Oshinoko Season 2. I won't get too deep into the plot because I firmly believe that the triple-length first episode is an experience that you owe yourself, and with as little foreknowledge as possible. But to generalize, this anime is about the Japanese entertainment industry, the good, the bad, and the scheming. It has charming characters and phenomenal animation. It's, so good I didn't write any notes. I heartily recommend. Anime of the season, again. Imai Seikatsu, Days with My Stepsister. Main guy discovers his dad is remarrying, the woman has a daughter, and both women move in with them.
という存在はただの他人だ。小説や映画では血のつながっていないことを免罪符に平気な顔で恋愛対象となり男女として結ばれたりする。創作世界にあるような出来事と
So that was a lie. Okay, I don't actually care one way or another for step-sibling stuff. I'm not excited by it, but I'm not gonna not watch a show because of it. Besides, I would have not have guessed at that romance tag from this episode. I liked the scene where they first met and were feeling out their relationship. They were being really frank and grounded. But that in itself turned into a problem. I feel like they're too normal. Like, I'm just voyeuristically spying on normal people doing nothing of importance. And it's boring because real life is boring. Usually I'm fully team, why make a live action when animation allows for more? But this time I'm like, I think you would have gotten more out of this by having real actors. There's a scene of her having trouble with the lights in the new house, which, yeah, that happens. But I didn't even realize what was happening at first. There wasn't like a comedic music sting or setup or anything. It's like watching security footage. The line between slow and boring is quite thin, and this fell over the line for me. I'll go with mediocre. Tasogare out focus, or Twilight out of focus. You had me at BL TV anime. And I must say, this has much better production value than this Fujoshi is used to having. So I'm living. Would I rather it not be about high schoolers? I mean, yeah, but beggars can't be choosers. Also, no joke, having a character be officially gay from scene 1 is actually really uncommon in BL, so I appreciated that. We follow an all-boys high school film club and its members, and a few different relationships blooming. The couples each have their own arc, which is risky because if you don't click with one of the couples, their episodes might drag. It's more on the dramatic side and less on the rom-com side, but there isn't a bunch of ridiculous misunderstanding arcs or anything like that. Orestria likey! Check it out, romance fans. Ore wa subete o parry suru. Yaku kanjigai no sekai saikyo o bokensha ni naritai. I parry everything. They got that English title shorter. Our main character tried to become an adventurer, taking training courses in every possible adventuring job, but was only able to gain one skill, parry, which isn't enough to let him be a real adventurer. He basically just does manual labor around town while privately training that parry skill. One day he hears a woman in danger and rushes to save her. At least that parry skill is pretty good for defending someone. And he's so impossibly strong that he manages to slay the monster with backlash from his parry. That's right, it's another I can't believe it's not isekai power fantasy with a main character who impossibly doesn't know he's strong. We also started in medias res and then spent 12 minutes recapping his life up to that point, and then replayed the footage from the cold open as if I hadn't been impatiently waiting to see what happened. I kind of feel like I should have watched the second episode because it does seem to have some potential, but I've never been a big fan of the doesn't know he's OP trope, and I'm getting really tired of it. And that was a really bad use of storytelling. You'll take a mediocre rank, and you will thank me for it. Giji harem, or pseudo-harem. A girl joins the drama club with aspirations of being an actor. She gets a crush on her senpai pretty much right away. And they develop this thing where she practices her acting by embodying several different tropey characters for his amusement. Imagine like someone with multiple personalities, except it's all acting. It's very cute. I love them as a couple, and yet this anime was kind of unwatchable. This might be the one time I wish a TV anime was short length. Every episode is just a bunch of different scenes with no sinew, and while each scene is enjoyable, the effect of trying to watch them all in sequence somehow just ends up being exhausting. I will unfortunately put this in mediocre. Hazure waku no joutai ijo skill de saikyo ni natta ore ga subete o jurin suru made. Failure frame, I became the strongest and annihilated everything with low-level spells. Gotta love when the title looks like a whole-ass paragraph in my notes. An entire class of high school kids gets isekai'd and greeted by a goddess. And, just as a side note, this is how the fuck I want y'all to make ecchi outfits, because she looks gorgeous. No notes. I need it in a goth palette, please and thank you. The goddess is there to greet them, show them their status screens, and rank them. The anime did a good job of making it all feel weirdly tense before the other shoe drops. She always sacrifices the lowest ranked hero because they just become a drain on the others. And of course, our main character gets that distinction and is banished to a dungeon that is super high level. He swears vengeance, manages to use his weak powers, which sure feel OP, to survive and escape. So, the elephant in the room is that this anime has a lot of janky looking CG. The thing is, in the dungeon, they kind of shot the moon and looped back around to being good because the monsters looked terrifying in their jankiness. It was much, much less charming once he got out of the dungeon. I really gave this an earnest try. While it had a lot of weaknesses, it wasn't boring me. I liked the goddess's design. I'd read that the elf girl they kept teasing is his romantic partner, and it's not harem-y. So I resolved to get to the point where we properly meet her. In the 2 episodes where she's a speaking character, we encounter 2 groups of men who want to rape and kill her. And I get it. This is a revenge story where all his classmates were assholes, and the goddess is an asshole, so this is just the kind of world where everyone is going to be assholes. But main guy is like, oh, I'm so edgy and bad, I'm a villain, because I kill people, I'm a killer. But again, all the people he's killed are self-professed rapists. So no, my dude, you are not a villain. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have watched so much. Mediocre. Shikanoko noko noko koshitantan. My dear friend. Our main character is the perfect girl at school. Athletic, pretty, intelligent, student council president, the whole 9 yards. But with a secret. She used to be a delinquent. Her secret is threatened as her classmate Shikanoko, who is a deer, discovers her secret and then blackmails her into starting a deer club. Hijinks ensue. This is an absurdist comedy. Comedy is extremely subjective, so how much it works for you, not just overall, but on a setup-by-setup basis, is gonna depend on you. I wouldn't say I was busting out laughing most of the time, but I had a fun time. Orestria like Nitengo Jigen no Ririsa. 2.5 dimensional seduction. What the fuck is that English name? Jesus. The Japanese is just 2.5 dimension Ririsa. Our main guy is a member of the manga research club, and all his senpai graduated, so he's actually the only member. He has a waifu and is dedicated to her to the point where he eschews real women. Until a girl comes to the club. She's a cosplayer, and his waifu is her favorite character too. Tepid romance ensues. But you know what? Fuck you, I like it. Orestria likey. It is neither very romantic nor very ecchi. Well, the anime. If you're looking for that, go to the manga, apparently. But I found it funny and charming. The cosplay stuff is fun! The camaraderie in the changing room at the conventions was very real to me. I also like a piece of media that fully admits that women can like sexy things. Since I started watching seasonal anime, I discovered I don't have a problem with ecchi in general, but just the way most ecchi is presented. A girl in a sexy outfit she doesn't want to be wearing with the camera swooping to impossible angles to highlight her? Gross. A woman trying to be sexy and showing off? Fantastic. Also, I'm about to say something crazy, but this anime had more realistic teachers, principals, student council leaders than most. I'm gonna put it in Orestria likey. It's pretty borderline with mediocre. I didn't have a lot of dinner shows this season. If there was more competition, I don't know if I would have kept watching it, which would have been a shame because the further along I got, the more I enjoyed it. Dungeon no Naka no Hito. Dungeon people. An adventurer heads into a dungeon seeking to find her missing father. He trained her to travel alone, so she's very wary. She beats the official record for how deep someone's made it in the dungeon, even though she's going solo. But it's not enough. She's convinced she has to go all the way if she's to find out what happened to her dad. During a boss battle, they accidentally break a wall, revealing a bedroom? And the boss monster goes from feral to polite. They've accidentally revealed the infrastructure of how the dungeon is run, and the dungeon master, who also happens to be the final boss, shows up. Apparently, the dungeon master has had her eye on the main girl for a while, because she needs help running the dungeon. And so, her new life begins. Her new, boring life. The first half of the episode was exhilarating. Unfortunately, it seems that was not very representative of what the show will be like. I have a sinking suspicion that episode 2's long tour of boring storage rooms is more evocative of what the show will be like going further. She also never asks about her dad, even though that was the whole reason she went into the dungeon. So our main character has no driving motivation either. Yeah, mediocre. Ramen Akaneko. A woman enters a ramen store where all the employees are cats. If your first thought, like mine, was, what about the cat hair? Well, There's a notice on the wall, didn't you read it? The woman isn't here as a cat-loving customer, but rather for a job interview. And her job is to brush the cats to help with the hair situation. Whatever charm there may have been in this show gets drained by the CG. Riveting. Yeah, this is bad. Kono sekai wa fukansen sugiru. Quality assurance in another world. We follow a girl who lives in a peaceful village where every day is the same, until, of course, one day isn't. The dragons near town are behaving strangely. Yes, those are dragons, according to this anime. And there's a mysterious man, maybe sent by the king, around. Nicola actually finds the change to the daily routine kind of exciting and wants to join Haga as an adventurer. But there's no way around it for me. I do not like these designs. Like, Nicola's okay, and everything else in the show I did not like. I also found most of this episode really dull. There are definitely signs that things are going to shift a lot from the next episode, but I'm out. I'm torn between good for thee and mediocre. It probably depends on where you feel about the designs. I feel mediocre. Senpai wa otoko no ko, or senpai isen otoko no ko. Yes, girl! Love a direct translation. The respect to otoko no ko being a distinctly Japanese identity. This is the queerest anime of the season. Maybe the queerest anime I've seen in a minute. And yes, I know I'm saying that in a season where there's a BL. BL is a flowery over-the-top genre. This is more of an earnest drama. We are watching high schoolers trying to figure out their gender and sexual identities. Which means I have no complaints about this anime being set in high school because that's actually where it belongs. Our main characters are Makoto, the titular otoko no ko, Ryuji, his childhood best friend, and Aoi, a junior classmate who confesses to Makoto and worms her adorable way into their lives. The anime isn't only about self-discovery, but also other aspects of their lives, relationships with their classmates, families, just the full experience of being a confused high schooler stumbling your way through such an awkward time of life. It's comedic, but it also made me cry a lot. It's also cheap looking, lots of image pans and chibis, but if that's what they needed to do to get this made, then it was worth it. Orestria likey, I would have recommended this in a heartbeat if the quality was even a scotch higher. Nier Automata Season 2. The Earth has been taken over by machine life forms. Humanity has retreated to the moon, and sexy combat androids in fetish wear fight back in the ruins of civilization for the glory of humanity. This is the second season of the anime adaptation of one of my favorite video games, and I'm pleased to report that Season 2 was better than Season 1. If you're familiar with the game, you can probably guess why, but suffice to say, this is where the shit really hits the fan. Wonderful animation, amazing music, it made me ugly cry. That said, I'm going to put it in Orestria likey, because if you haven't played the game, check it out. Like, the game gets a recommended tier. Shoshimin, How to Become Ordinary. We meet a couple of high schoolers. Our main guy postpones going with the girl to get some limited edition tarts to help his acquaintance with a high school mystery, the missing pochette. Deductive reasoning's the solution, and the two just barely get to the store in time to get the last 2 tarts. On a technical level, this is absolutely lovely. I see so much care in it. It looks great. It flows. I was unable to connect with it. I wasn't interested in the characters. Their repetition about how they just want to be normal while giving no indication of how they were abnormal. I don't really get why I'm supposed to care about the pochette incident. Not every show is for every person. There are shows I love that I don't recommend to people because I know it's more about my taste than the quality of the show. I feel like this is oozing with quality, and I'm just the wrong audience for it. Prime example of good for thee, but not for me. Elf-san wa yasararenai. Plus-sized elf. We started a massage parlor that does sus treatments for people concerned about their weight. After casually admitting that he doesn't like going drinking with his boss because she sexually harasses him, the main guy gets a client. Her name is Elfuda, which basically means it's an elf in Japanese. He sees her ears, she gets mad enough to hulk out of her t-shirt. I want there to be more plus-size characters in anime, and treated as the beautiful sexual beings they can be. But this anime is making fun of the weight, while saying she needs to lose weight, while fetishizing her weight. The second half of the episode, and these are already short-length episodes, was chibis talking about exercise with, like, Flash player level animation. So, I weirdly feel like even people in this for the ecchi won't be satisfied. The best joke in this is the elf wearing a beanie that says human. The worst joke is her wearing a t-shirt that says I love cooking oil. Does that even count as a joke? The first half of the episode is Just Be Porn, and the second half of the episode is bad, but I'm just gonna put it in Just Be Porn. Since we know Sakuna Hime, Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. A group of humans are crossing the bridge from the lower realm into the lofty realm where the gods live. Why? I don't know. And then they run into a samurai with a sword who knows them. Why? And where did he come from? I don't know. Before they can fight, a haughty goddess shows up, gets offended, and kicks the samurai off the bridge. She tells the other humans to turn back and heads home, considering this a job well done. But those humans didn't turn back. Chaos ensues, the goddess gets caught out, and sentenced to be banished to the humans' island to grow rice and fight demons. And then we stay in heaven for like another 5 minutes while the main goddess just complains. I get it. You start with an annoying main character who needs her comeuppance and have her go through a character arc. But it just feels like we're dragging our feet instead of progressing the story. I already knew she was spoiled. These scenes aren't adding anything. The aesthetic is strong, it's well animated, and it looks great, except for me personally, once again, I don't resonate with these character designs, and I recognize it's very much a personal taste thing. Good for thee, but not for me. Madogushi Dahlia wa Utsumukanai. Dahlia in bloom. Crafting a fresh start with magical tools. Our main character dies of overwork and is reborn as the daughter of an artificer. Using her knowledge of modern-day tech and the use of magical stones in her new world, she follows in her father's footsteps as an artificer. I love the daughter-father bond, and we don't get to see this a lot in anime. Okay, so that's where the second episode is going? I mean, I guess that's an improvement on her going to magical school, which is what I assumed was gonna happen. This show is low-key ugly. They keep lingering on these plants outside the house, and they look terrible. If I hadn't seen the description for the next episode, I would have tried a little more, but honestly, I'm watching too many shows. Mediocre. Mob kara hajimaru tansaku eiyutan. A nobody's way up to an exploration hero. Our main character is a low-level character in a modern world dungeon. He kills slimes with bug spray, and, no, that's it, actually. When he kills his I knew this was going to be a problem when I wrote it in the script. When he kills his 1,000th slime, he finds a rare drop. And it's a summoning card. He spends an entire day obsessed with how much money he could make by selling it. He's previously seemed really concerned about money, and hasn't given any other motivation for dungeoning aside from money, so now he's rich, right? Of course not. We wouldn't have an anime if he didn't summon the pretty Valkyrie lady. It does leave me very, very confused what his motivations actually are. Like, I need an I want song. So yeah, he goes and summons her, and I'm sorry, when you promise me a beautiful woman and give me a lolly, I'm gonna question your motives. And since she's a servant, she calls him master. He feeds her crystals from the feeded monster, like literally hand feeds her. Maybe I'm dumb, but I didn't realize from the poster that she was going to be this much of a lolly. And based on the ED, he's going to get another lolly girl too, just collecting them like Pokemon. This is just way too sus for me. Without those vibes, it would squeak into mediocre, but I am going to toss it down in bad. Nigejozu no Wagakimi, the elusive samurai. The creator of Assassination Classroom sure likes stories with killer children, eh? This is a rather fictionalized version of some real Japanese history, and I am terrible at Japanese history, but I didn't feel like I was missing out. This is the cutest anime about children being brutalized and then killing war criminals. I said what I said. Despite a lot of the horrible things that happen, the kids themselves feel like they have enough plot armor that I'm not too scared for them. The overall vibe is actually quite lighthearted, and it's over the top with its stylization, and the animation is gorgeous, as long as there aren't any horses on screen. This is Oshinoko's main competition for anime of the season, and an easy recommendation. Tsuhito Tsurugi no Wistoria. Wistoria, Wand and Sword. Will needs to stand out at magic school so he can ascend the tower and become a special, and thus be reunited with his childhood friend / crush. Just one itty-bitty problem. He has no magic power. At all. Luckily, he's pretty good with a sword. I know. You can already think of a few big-ticket anime with basically this plot. But do they look like this? Like this! The characters are acceptable. The plot is tropey, but acceptable. The direction is trying some things, and the pacing is brisk. But everything just comes together so well. For example, we have a mascot, but she is actually adorable and thankfully doesn't talk. I fell in love instantly. Kiki best girl? Moreover, the presentation is bonkers. Like, the fight at the end of episode 2 has the quality and hype of an end-of-season battle. Easy recommend. I'm excited for season 2. Isekai Yururi Kiko, Kosodate Shinagara Bokensha Shimasu. A journey through another world, raising kids while adventuring. Taku gets isekai'd and along the way adopts some twins he found in a forest. Turns out they are crazy powerful. Like maybe more than him, and he's got OP blessings from the twink god that isekai'd him. This is a very healing anime. Nothing happens. Like literally they spend a good chunk of one episode making bread. There's a scene where he teaches the twins to do some simple math and we have to sit through all of it. I watched too much of this. It's really mid and slow, but I was charmed by like a single father, and I liked that there was no drama around it. It's cute. Whatever. If it had better pacing and animation, I would love it, but instead it's just mediocre. VTuber Nanda ga haishin kiri wasuretara densetsu ni natte ta. VTuber legend. How I went viral after forgetting to turn off my stream. An unsuccessful VTuber forgets to sign off her stream, meaning all her fans hear her being terminally online while chugging down beers. Like, spitting filth while watching another VTuber. Which of course gets forgot to end the stream and mask off trending as her numbers go up. So, you've noticed by now that all the VTubers are dressed exactly like their character models, which I feel defeats the purpose. And then the girl went to the store to recycle her beer cans while dressed like that. And I understood. This is camp. This is meme fodder. It's either going to be for you or not. Comedy is subjective. As for me, I do not watch VTubes. I have the term muted on social media because I have less than zero personal interest. I think I'm not even online enough to get all the jokes here. Good for thee, not for me. Nare hana nare. Nare nare cheer for you. I don't even know how to explain the plot. This is a cute girls doing cute things anime involving a group of girls who don't all go to the same school. Some of them are cheerleaders, some of them are amateur musicians, or music creators, or YouTubers, and one of them is randomly a parkour god. Cute girls doing cute gravity-defying things. I think they're building to them doing their own, like, cheer videos on YouTube to their own music. A couple of the girls have done competitive cheer before. One of them was injured and is still in recovery, and the other one hasn't mentally recovered. A cute girl doing cute things anime is very much about the vibes. And the vibes are just weird here. There's a lot of drama. Whatever's going on with the parkour girl and the Ojo-sama feels annoying. The cheer drama feels juicy, but it makes me impatient during the sitting around the room chatting bits. The characters aren't connecting with me, so the chatting isn't hitting right. And then there's this Brazilian character. I know there are blonde, blue-eyed, pale-skinned Brazilians, but I can't help but think of every foreigner character in anime. And it feels like they went with blonde hair, blue eyes because that's cute and fits the like default foreigner appearance idea that Japanese people have. Also, she literally kicks a guy in the face and I'm like, that's how you get arrested and lose your residence card. I think this is fine. I'm not a huge cute girls doing cute things person. It needs to click, and this one was not clicking for me, but maybe it will for you. Good for thee, not for me. Spice and Wolf. I talked about this last season, so let's make it quick. Top of Orestria likey. Put it up in the recommended section if an economics simulator is interesting to you. That's not a read. I wish we had more stuff like this. I mean, it is technically a fantasy, but you're looking in the wrong place if you want like sorcery and fights everywhere. Lawrence, an experienced merchant, encounters a wolf spirit, the wise wolf Hollow, certified anime waifu great. Then they... Adventure feels like too strong a word. Then they travel together, meeting people, getting into situations, and using their wits to get out of it, and making a profit along the way. It's so much harder to speak about good anime than messes. TLDR, this anime is fascinating. Good shit. Isekai Shikaku, no longer allowed in another world. So, suicidal themes coming up here. But like, in a comedic way? This anime asks the question, what if famous Japanese author Osamu Dazai got hit by truck-kun before he could commit lover's suicide? The anime is even named in reference to one of his novels. I've heard people who feel that the very concept of this anime is tasteless, which I kind of get, but like, Japan just does this. There are so many anime properties using historical or literary figures, for better or for worse. For me, something about the girls' designs just scream ecchi, but the anime isn't. And weirdly, I really like the designs. The comedy worked for me, and I found it a really interesting twist on isekai. There's a really strong theme of making one's own choices, which makes it very optimistic for an anime obsessed with suicide. And we can thank it for the resurgence of truck-kun memes. I think a lot of people won't like this, but you know who did? Me! Orestria likey. Mayonaka Punch. Our main character is a disgraced YouTuber. She's been kicked out of the channel she's made with her friends due to her violence, and her partners that she thought were her friends just totally dump her. She wants to keep making videos to show them what a mistake it was to dump her, but when she tries to upload anything, she gets flooded with negative comments that she just can't ignore. In desperation, she goes to an abandoned hospital to try and make a good video, and runs into an honest-to-goodness vampire. Said vampire has only recently woken up from a long slumber, during which she had dreams of a human girl offering her all of her blood. And our YouTuber looks exactly like the girl from her dreams. They strike a deal. Get the YouTube channel to 1 million views, and then the vampire can have the YouTuber as a delicious meal. This just did not click with me. The animation is nice, and I like the way the negative comments kind of come to life. There's even a scene where the YouTuber focuses in on the one negative comment, which is very real to life. But I just couldn't seem to get invested. The main character seems kind of like garbage. Like, we know she punched her friends, but we don't know why. We know she hasn't apologized. She doesn't seem to feel any guilt about it. She thinks she still deserves to be successful, and is literally willing to offer her life to get YouTube views to try and lord it over her ex-friends. I know, you have a scummy main character so they can grow, but it's a tightrope act, where if they're too scummy, the audience doesn't want to watch. And with this anime, that's how I felt. Out of respect for the sapphic vibes, I will put it in good for thee, not for me. Also that feeling when a literal vampire has less sun protection in her bedroom than I do. Katsute maho shoujo to aku wa tekitai shiteita. The magical girl and the evil lieutenant used to be arch-enemies. I mean, this is an anime where the title is the plot description. A sweet rom-com between the magical girl and the evil lieutenant. He's super calculating and considered the most devious member of the evil organization. She's sweet and basically being forced into slave labor by her evil mascot. I hate every character who isn't the main duo, but it is what it is. This anime is short length, and the last episode made me cry. Not because it was sad, but because the creator, Fujiwara Kokowa, passed away. The series is incomplete, and will forever remain so. Orestria Laiki. Koi wa futago de warikirenai. Love is indivisible by twins. A pair of twins meets the boy next door, and since they're children, that's basically all it takes to become friends for life. He's a young intellectual. I can't make fun of this kid for reading Lord of the Rings in elementary school, because so did I. One sister is similar, and they talk about the books they like. The other sister watches this, feeling jealous, because she likes him, but feels like the literary tendencies mean her sister is closer to him. So she asks him out first. In the first half of the episode, we'd covered a bunch of stuff from their childhood to the third year of middle school, but all at this, detached point of view. Like, we're not experiencing the scene or feeling it, we're just being told. Like exposition, but it's the entire episode. Or at least the entire 10 minutes I watched. At some point I sped it up, and I was still bored, so I stopped watching. I shall put it in mediocre. Bye Bye Earth. Our main girl is a regular human in a fantasy world where every clan has some kind of feature. Horns, fins, animal ears, something. Which makes her a featureless freak of nature to the denizens of the world. They call her Beastly instead of using her name, Belle. She's been trained as a great fighter by her master, and she's just about ready to set out on her journey as a nomad, accompanied by her fuck you big sword, that she chats with, although to my disappointment, the sword doesn't talk back. I really liked the first part of the episode with her showing up and saving a village, despite them shitting all over her. I felt the second bit of the episode was rushed, but I was hoping it was to try to finish the setup before we get to the real meat of the story in the second episode. How do you make me disinterested in a fantasy story with a world full of animal people starring a girl with a huge-ass sword? This is just an endless stream of introducing concepts. They tell you the name and show you the word on screen and maybe a diagram, but they don't really show you what it means, so the concepts just instantly disappear from your mind. Is there going to be a test on this at the end of the episode? Because I'm about to fail. Once I realized that the simultaneously breakneck but also boring pace from the end of the first episode is just the pace, I immediately dropped it. Mediocre? Actually, my dear moments. In a Waterworld-esque post-apocalypse, well, things aren't actually so bad. Sure, a bunch of cities are underwater, but we can still have high school girls in uniform, so things can't be that bad. Our main character was an ambitious young man whose dreams have somewhat been hampered by him only having one foot. Nevertheless, he's mechanically inclined and has a submarine he uses to investigate the world under the water. In a journey back to his ocean scientist grandma's house, he finds a humanoid, a robot in human form. I feel like the fact that she looks and behaves human, being unusual for humanoids, might have landed better if we'd ever seen one before we met her, but I digress. I felt like there was a lot of potential from the first episode, but the humanoid Atri is just this annoying forced cute that I can't handle. The second episode is cutesy scenes, then exposition, then cutesy scenes, and no fucking ocean exploration. I couldn't even sit through it. Still the best robot waifu anime of the season, though. Good for thee, not for me. Nakehiro ga oosuguru. Makein, Too Many Losing Heroines. A bookish boy who has about 0 friends is sitting in a family restaurant reading. He accidentally witnesses a scene right out of a novel. A girl tearfully confessing to her childhood friend while convincing him to go chase after the girl he actually likes. She clocks him noticing her, goes to his booth, and goes through a full range of meltdowns while explaining the situation. She is our first loser heroine. The most common love triangle in anime always seems to have the childhood friend lose, so that's what the term is referring to. I hated this. It was rancid. I could not bear to watch it. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to eloquently explain why. Not the animation, this thing looks absolutely lovely. I also like the character designs. Feels like we're getting some proper variation in girls here. At least on a scale of high school anime girls. Some of it is my expectation. The first poster for this anime didn't have a guy at all, so it felt like a rug pull when the first thing that happened was a guy monologuing about romance. Maybe it's the way we're watching girls' lives through the lens of a guy judging them. Maybe it's the way this girl can do nothing but talk about the guy and the breakup. I mean, in her situation, it makes sense that that's what her life is about right now, but since this was our introduction to her, I know nothing else about her as a human being. So instead of sympathy, I just feel irritated. This reeks of quality, but I just don't get it, so I guess I'm the loser here. Good for thee, not for me. Naze boku no sekai wa dare mo oboete nai no ka? Why does nobody remember me in this world? Firstly, why change remember my world to remember me in this world? Translators, why? It's less accurate and more awkward. Anyways, we join our main character in his world. There was a great war between the 5 races, and as humans are wont to do, we overcame the fact that we're literally just the weakest species with technology and won the war. Also, there was a saint guy who saved the day, but even though they have photography, somehow there's no photo of this particular guy. Whatever, I'm sure that's not immensely relevant. After a wall of, as you know, I'm your childhood friend level exposition, our main character gets portaled to an alternate history of his own world where the saint hasn't appeared, and humanity is pretty boned. So now he has to explain to people there how this is different than his own world, which seems to me this could have been how you exposited his world instead of spending 10 minutes telling us first. Okay, honestly, it picked up from there. I love a gun sword, I love the weird angel girl, I like the Jeanne d'Arc character, so I was enjoying myself. But then the big fight at the end of the first arc was like pulling teeth. Every time it threatened to be interesting, it would grind to a halt instead. Mediocre. All cops are bastards. Even gorgeous vampire cops. Delico's nursery. There are murders to solve, but their best detective is busy. See, his wife was recently killed, and he promised to take care of their son as she died in his arms. And he takes this promise very seriously. He's now fully an at-home dad, and in exchange for helping with the case, forces all the other vampire cops to come do playdates at his house with their much-ignored children. I wanted to watch this because of all the pretty vampire men, and as has come up a lot this season, fatherhood is something I think we don't get to see enough of in media, but there's a lot of, I'm not going to tell you, just to hide things clumsily from the audience. The balance between the murders and the child rearing is not working for me. I don't know what the features of a vampire are in this world, or even who are vamps and who aren't. Is everyone vampires? I watched 4 episodes, and the only vampiric feature I'm clear on is that if a vampire, any vamp, bites any other vamp, they get perfect mind control over them, which is so wild. I wonder how they even managed to make a society in the first place. And any motive in this murder case could be someone bit them and told them to. I could not get into this. I'm gonna put this in mediocre because I think they're literally making up their plot as they go along. Terminator Zero! Girl, why do you have to drop like 2 minutes before the season ends? I'm a busy woman. What? Aired August 29th. Okay, you're excused. The plot of this anime is, the Terminator franchise. There are people trying to stop the rise of the machines, and there are killing machines that look like humans that time travel back to stop them. The cold open had a badass action woman. Most of the rest of the episode was a teenage boy bickering with his dad, and waiting to see whether the inciting incident of a multi-decade franchise is going to happen or not. Which, it's going to happen. It's flashy. If you're here for that, you'll probably have a good time. Which is good for thee, and not for me. Before we get to the best boy, best girl, and trans non-binary highlight segments, let's recap that recommended section. Wistoria, Sword and Wand. The Elusive Samurai. Oshinoko. And if you're at all so inclined, Spice and Wolf. What a lovely season where I feel like I have options for every category. Best Boy. Honorable mentions go to previous victor Aqua from Oshinoko. I love this scheming motherfucker. Tokiyuki-sama from Nigejozu, because Jesus fucking Christ. The joyful smiles while dodging wanton chaos triggers the same reaction I get from my beloved psycho stabby boy archetype. This idiotic lizard boy, Doki from Shy, if you tell him something like, wow, you're kind of into girly things, he will barbarian rage and kill your ass. I love him. You're right, Doki, boys can like stuffed animals too. But my winner is Ryuji from Otokonoko. Chill guy, down with his friend being whatever he wants to be. He's supportive not just of his friend, but also of someone you could call his romantic rival. We get to see him really go through it in the show, but he doesn't wallow too much, and he does a good job of communicating. You know, for a confused high schooler dealing with newly discovered queerness. Best Girl. As for Best Girl, so many honorable mentions. Satie, the maid from Malgun Saikyo. She is literally the reason I decided to watch the second episode. She was like, simple but not dumb, willing to stand up for herself, just funny and cute. Another character that was partially responsible for me watching more episodes of an anime than I maybe ought to have is the evil goddess from Failure Frame. She's so hot. Gaslighting Goddess! Caldron, the headmistress from Wistoria, because she's life goals for me. She sits in front of a huge cauldron, has sick nasty black matte nails, a witch hat, a sense of command. It's nice to see an older lady in anime who isn't that, like, comedic tiny archetype. Mayuda from 2.5 Ririsa. Oh god, another teacher in my honorable mentions. I'm so biased. If you're not a teacher, you might not have thought much about expectations and judgments that teachers can face outside of work. So seeing a character who has a hobby that they feel is inappropriate for their profession and watching them deal with it really struck a chord with me. Aoi from Otokonoko. Her first scene is confessing her love to a girl, finding out that girl is a cross-dressing boy, and saying, that's good with me too. Iconic. Obviously this story is not concluded, but at least I read her character as potentially being Arrow Ace, and getting a main character in an anime who is trying to discover and understand their feelings and why they're different from others. And there's like this almost toxic positivity she displays, where she hides everything dark behind a Genki smile. I want to see more. And a very special honorable mention to all the girls from Oshinoko. That said, this season the spotlight was really on Aqua, but maybe the next season will belong to Ruby. We'll see. My best girl is, once again, the wise Wolf Hollow. I'm not even sure what to say, especially with this being the second season in a row. She's wise, but not in a boring way. She has a joie de vivre that feels youthful despite her age. She exists in a strange situation, being basically a pagan goddess in the midst of a world throwing out the old ways. Her intellect is more often the solution to problems than her powers, although those are certainly tools in the toolbox. And the relationship between her and Lawrence is just so fun to watch. Anime waifu royalty walks amongst us. Good.
Now it's time for the trans non-binary highlight.
In Senpai is an Otokonoko, that Makoto dresses as a girl is a fact. Whether he wants to become a woman or just be a guy in cute clothes is a through line of the series. I think people should be allowed to wear whatever they want. I don't think a guy who wants to wear dresses and makeup and wigs is necessarily trans or non-binary. I think people should be allowed to transition or not, and live their lives as whatever gender feels right for them, with whatever gender presentation feels authentic to them. And it's nice having an anime look at high schoolers trying to figure this all out for themselves. And Makoto is so sweet. He's not the only Otokonoko this season either. Actually, he's not the only Otokonoko named Makoto this season. Dedede Destruction doesn't go anywhere near as much into detail about the concept, but I gotta shout out their Makoto here. And I really like that we get both an anime with a character who just happens to be an Otokonoko, and an anime where we're exploring that character. Seems like the real standouts of this season are some action-packed shows with great animation, and some queer stuff. And I'm most pleased to report that I think I'll be able to say that again next time. Bye-bye! That should be face. Face, face, face. I'll give face. Face.